In today's episode, I ride solo and speak with Helen Morris, whose 18-year-old daughter died in a car accident. How do you survive something like that? What can you do to make your world stop spinning? Is it even possible to find joy again? Helen bravely shares her story, and by doing so, she strengthens others on their journey through grief. Please do me the honor and listen in.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Earrings Off. We want to invite you to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. You can find us on Facebook at Earrings Off Podcast and on Instagram at The Earrings Off Podcast.
Welcome to Earrings Off. I'm Lou.
And I'm Teresa.
Well, we have with us today Helen Morris, who is joining us today. So welcome, Helen, to Earrings Off.
Thank you very much, Lou. I appreciate being with you and your listeners tonight or today or whatever time it is that you are listening to this.
That's the beauty of podcasts, isn't it? It just depends. But Helen, we're going to go on and get started. So we want to talk to you a little bit about the loss of your beautiful daughter, Tal. So what did your life look like prior to losing your daughter?
All right. So I had a very traumatic early life. So I'm going to skip over that. But just suffice it to say that by the time I was 20 or in my early 20s, I'd developed two chronic conditions, Crohn's and chronic fatigue syndrome. Then I fell pregnant unexpectedly with Tal when I was 35. And I was raising and I was raising her on my own from when she was 1. She had Guillain-Barré, which paralyzes a person. She had that at the age of 3. And she also had night terrors from the age of 18 months to 7.5 years. And the reason I add that is because those early years were so tough for the both of us.
Yeah.
But they were great learning platforms, and I feel like we learned from each other. So we became very, very close over the years as, I just learned to allow her to be fully herself. And especially through her teens, we had an amazing relationship. And at the time of her accident, I was just busy. I worked in health IT. I was on a big project that we were trying to implement, as well as doing training with general practices, doctors, nurses, admin on new, national projects that had come through. And and Tal was busy. She'd finished school the year before. She wasn't quite sure what she wanted to do. And then just prior to her accident, she had made up her mind. But in the meantime, she was working. She was working in a lovely restaurant, and we'd also just shifted house the weekend before. So, life was pretty busy for us.
Okay, and it was a car accident.
That's correct. Yes, I was leaving work late one night, and so I just happened to give her a quick call because we were due to meet up, and I wanted to let her know, should we meet in town or should we meet at home, because she was due to then go on to work at the restaurant. And so we had this quick phone call. It was less than a minute. Basically, she said, "Oh, Mum, I'm just leaving Napier," which is a town not too far from us, about half an hour from us. And I thought she was at home, but she said, no, I'm just leaving Napier. So I will meet you at home, and then I can pick up my uniform. So I went, yeah, sure, no problem. And she goes, "Oh, by the way, go check out my room. It looks amazing." And so we just had this beautiful, conversation. And then as it turned out, and I found out later, that conversation was 2 minutes before her actual accident happened. And so it was, yeah, it could be hard, but like at first I thought I may have caused her accident, and then I thought, don't be silly, and I actually drove for 2 minutes, and you drive an awful long way in 2 minutes. And then I realized that, this was our goodbye. We got to connect just
Yeah.
before she
Before
left.
it happened.
So,
Wow.
yeah,
Mm.
so I actually knew about her accident before it even happened. So she came to me as soon as she knew that she had transitioned. And I felt that very, very strongly. I just had this urgent need to go and find her. Uh,
Wow. Mm.
yes. Yeah. So.
So, what was the impact of losing her at such a young age?
Oh my gosh. So we just got to that really exciting place where, she was 18. So, she was in charge of her own life. And I was really super excited to see where she was going to head. She was just this delightful, sassy, cheeky go getter of life. And she
Yeah.
had loads of friends. She was a great athlete. And, so it's losing out on all of that, the what could have been, like the wedding and the
Right.
children, and,
Hmm.
just seeing her grow into this beautiful self, and just even our
Yeah.
relationship together, she was my best friend. So,
Mhm.
it was
Yeah.
lost dreams, really. And yeah,
Yeah.
and
Mm-mm.
I actually interviewed somebody recently who described a parent losing their child as belonging to a nameless club. And that's what I felt after I lost her as well, because she was my only child. There was only her and I for 17 years. And then how do you describe that to
Right.
people?
Right.
Like, you're not a widow, you're not an, orphan or
Right.
anything like that, but there's no word to describe somebody who loses a child. And that was
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
bizarre, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. I I walked through that journey with my sister who lost her only son, her only child. And
Yes.
I tell you, you're right. I tell people because after it happened, people because he actually his wife, got a settlement from the doctor. But anyway, people were saying, well, at least you won't have that to worry about. And I said to
What?
people, I said, they don't print enough money for what's happened to my family. It completely destroyed us. I mean, it just destroyed us. I will never forget the look on my sister's face when I first saw her after it happened. It was a look of sheer terror, you know? So,
Absolutely. It's a numbness. Like, it's
yeah,
like something that you never
yeah,
ever expect to happen in
yeah,
your lifetime. And
yeah,
like you say, no amount of money
no,
will
no.
ever make it
When when
okay.
when that, I tell you, it just devastated my family, the whole family. It was like a
Yes.
virus just swept through everybody. Was just we were just like unsteady for the longest time, and so yeah, it's devastating, particularly when it's a young person like that, and it's so
Mm.
sudden. But how has that changed your life and the lives of others you've worked on?
I guess so. What that did is that it losing Tal took me on this journey to discovering myself. And I guess because she came to me when she died, I was given a different perspective to look at her death from. Like, I knew that there was something bigger to all
Mhm.
of this. And so I didn't ask why. I just accepted that in the scheme of things, as bizarre as it sounds, this had its place. And so it was then me discovering what my role and my place was in all of this. And so I went on this incredible healing journey, and gratitude played a big part of it, but
Really?
also, yes, yes, yes. Um, but my daughter is, she's hard case. And even now, like, I still have a very strong connection with her. So she wouldn't allow me to have any pity parties, as she would describe it. She was going, right, you've got 5 minutes. So you've got 5 minutes to cry, and then get on with it. That was kind of like,
Yeah.
it was like tough loving me.
And you felt that from her.
Oh, yes, because
Oh.
like literally I would be crying and then she would pop into my mind like, okay, have you had enough now? Okay. And then she'd come and she'd crack a stupid remark or something like, like used to always say, "You're such a dork, Mum," because I used to do dorky things.
Yeah.
And she goes and she'd say something like, you look like a dork right at this time or something, and I'll go. So automatically that would just take me to a different place.
Wow.
Yes, it
Mm-hmm.
pretty much was wow.
Yeah.
And I would, if I felt myself going into a dark place, now this is not to minimize what anybody else goes through, but I felt like I had been preparing my whole life to prepare to lose my daughter in a strange
Really?
way. Yes, 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 yes.
Helen, really?
Yes, because I've had so many lessons in my life and I've had so many hardships, so many things to get over. And then I also used to have this bizarre reaction to hearing about teenagers being killed in car accidents. Like that more than anything really, really affected me. So when Tal died, it kind of like made sense. It kind of like, oh, because I could never imagine what a parent must go through losing their child, or especially losing their teenager. And then here I am experiencing that
Right.
firsthand.
Right.
And I was just like, holy heck.
So you felt like your life had prepared you somewhat for what
Yeah.
was coming. Wow.
Yes. And my life with Tal, she gave me this big checklist straight after she died, like ticking off everything. Like,
Mm,
been here, done that, Mum. You've learned everything I needed to teach you. Now it's my time to head off. And I went,
wow.
no, 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 no. But yeah, it was reality. It was like I was her parent,
Mm,
but she was my greatest
yeah.
teacher.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
had spent 18 years learning incredible lessons from this beautiful soul who was all about fighting for the underdog, being fair in this life, like she could accept if she was just being a minx and, being naughty and winding me up. But if I was being unfair to her because I was perhaps tired or
Mm-hmm.
just seeing something from a different perspective, and if she thought it was unfair, well, the gloves were on. I tell you what, she was going, nope, you're not doing this. And
Yeah.
so I learned the art of truly forgiving her and forgiving myself especially myself when I got it horribly wrong,
Wow.
and apologizing to her. Like that just made it, that was a game changer for us.
So what are your greatest learnings from losing Tal?
Oh gosh, I guess my greatest learnings are, just to allow yourself to feel this event, feel it in its fullness. I don't know whether you've heard of, our somatic body. Have you heard of that?
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, of course. Okay, so what most people are doing is that they're living their lives in their heads and they're living their lives with their belief systems of what they've been, you know, taught all their
Mm-hmm.
lives from their
Mm-hmm.
family, from their community, from their
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
peers, from everybody. So you're living your life for the expectations of others externally.
Right.
However, often what happens is that we suppress things that are not in alignment with ourselves. So, we may be brought up to believe one thing, but actually as we grow older, we think, no, I
Oh,
don't really
yeah.
believe
That's
that.
right.
And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so what that does is that you harbor or you repress a lot of emotions within as you work your way through this, unless you're really good at tapping into what your body feels, feeling that emotion, feeling that pain, feeling that hurt, or feeling whatever it is you need to feel and releasing it. If we're not doing that, we're trapping it within ourselves. And it has to play out at some stage.
That's
And
so true.
so, yes, and I think that when you have something like a profound event, like the death of a child or a partner or someone that you loved beyond all love, and or it could even be something like losing your house, and
Hmm.
that could have been the most important thing to
Right.
you, your
Hmm.
safety, your security. Doesn't matter what it is, but when we lose something like that, we have to allow ourselves to feel that hurt, to feel that pain.
Hmm.
And Pandora's box opens, everything comes into the mix.
Hmm. Hmm.
Every single thing that we've probably experienced in our life somehow,
Hmm. Hmm.
raises its
Right.
head and wants to be a part of this.
Right.
So that's why no two people experience grief the same. So what I believe is important is honoring what you feel at a core level, and however that looks, and tapping into your body, just recognizing that, yeah, that pain is
Yeah.
there for a reason.
Yeah. Well, Helen, I have to tell you, I agree absolutely with that. Because, so many times we're told in this society, you're going to have to move beyond that. It happens, you're going to have to move on. And people sometimes don't have a lot of tolerance, particularly when you talk about grief. It makes other people uneasy and it makes people awkward. But the reality is, when you're in pain, you're in pain. And you're
Mm.
going to have to work through that, and the first step is really acknowledging, no, I am not okay. I'm not doing well.
Yes.
I'm in pain. And
Yeah.
so I applaud you. I certainly believe in that, and try to make sure that I give people space when they're
Hmm.
grieving, that
Yes.
I don't put my expectations, or particularly when I shared about, my sister experienced that. Just I was in pain also, but I didn't want my pain to try to hurry her through hers so I could feel better. And a
Wow,
lot of
that is
times
so wise.
that, yes, a lot of times that's what people do. We love people and we don't want to see them in pain. So it's like, okay, I need you to get beyond that because it's making I'm in pain also, but you can't do that. That's just not what you do.
We
Yeah.
want to be a fix-it society, and we want,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
But
what I mean. Yeah.
the thing is that, that's when I said that I had a lifetime of preparing this, because I was fixing myself from early childhood trauma. I was healing myself from chronic
Hmm.
diseases, and
Yeah.
I was tapping into all of that. So I pretty much had a head start on some
Wow.
people
Hmm.
that have never had to face that journey.
Wow.
Or, yeah. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is a strange way to look at it, but that was how it played out for
Yeah.
me, and it
Hmm.
allowed me to see grief from a totally different perspective, which is why I do my podcast called The Beautiful Side of Grief,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah. I
I got
love that title. Yeah.
I know, and
Yeah.
I had somebody that desperately wanted me to change it. I got some
Oh,
advice
I,
from a marketing person, and they
no, I
said,
love it.
okay, let's change it. And I went,
No,
no, no.
no, I love it. I love it.
Mm,
So, how did you find your way to living a life of joy and happiness?
to living my life with okay. That is such a big, big question, because it's not something that comes easily. I think it's something that you have to go through the depths of grief and despair to find your way to like I said, feeling that pain, acknowledging that it's not only the pain of the event that may have happened, but it could have been pain from when you were a child, when you were a teenager, all of those things. They all come into play. And so I mentioned a big thing is just recognizing that it's never about the destination and it's always about the journey. The journey is about living our lives in the here and now and experiencing in this moment what it is we need to experience. And sometimes we're so busy looking, for what's going to get us a house or the new
The
job
next
or
thing. Right.
the next thing. You get that. So we forget to appreciate what we have right in this moment, here and now. Gratitude was huge. I'd always heard about gratitude and I probably paid it a little bit of lip service. But when I actually really started living this, like after Tal died, and like I mentioned, when I go to those dark spots, I would just go, okay, what are 3 to 5 things I am really grateful for right now? And it may have been as basic as, okay, I've got a roof over my head. I've got hot water to just stand under a hot shower and just let that wash away what I'm feeling. I have power. I have space. I have space just to allow myself to be. Do you know those types of things? Keeping it really, really simple. But the more that you experience gratitude and live gratitude, the more your life opens up in unbelievable ways. It's a frequency. It's a beautiful, life-giving frequency. It's also about allowing yourself to be yourself, like we talked earlier about how we're conditioned to be all sorts of things. But I think the thing that I've most allowed myself is that when Tal died, when she died, I remember one day just thinking, I don't care anymore about what people think about me. That was always a big thing.
Yeah.
I did care.
I read that in your bio. Yeah.
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 and I don't, and it's not that I look, take this, it's not that I don't care, but suddenly it was a release that I was no longer going to be governed by these thoughts of how I appeared to others and what others thought about me and my lifestyle. What I owed it to myself to be was to love myself exactly as I am, here and now, and who I am supposed to be. And that may not be everybody's cup of tea, and that is fine. But when you're living your true self in all your authenticity, there is a beautiful release that happens with that also. It's a freedom. It's a freedom nobody else can give you.
Yeah. When you was talking, that's what I was thinking. You're now free. And
Yes.
that is
Yeah.
not to be minimized. That's
No.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what role has volunteering played in your life now?
Oh my gosh, volunteering. Oh, that is the love of my life. That
Is
is
it
been a game.
really?
It's been a big game changer. And let me tell you why. Okay. Right from the outset, I started, very early on into my grief. Had a friend come to my workplace and say, Helen, do you think you'd have some time to drive some teenagers to and from their growing young opera stars practice? And these were underprivileged kids, and so they didn't have a parent available to take them to and from and things like that. I went, sure, okay. Now, when you're giving to others, you're going outside of yourself. So you're not in your head and your thoughts about your grief. When you're giving to somebody else, you're focused on that. And so the act of giving in itself is so powerful. It's the giving of your time, your energy, your heart, your skills to others in whatever way that looks like. And you are actually the one that gets the biggest rewards from this.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned to you, I was driving these teenagers. So have you got a time for a quick story?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I've been picking up groups of teenagers and taking them to and from practice, for a year. And then I went to pick up this young guy, and he and I hadn't seen each other for a long while. And it was just him and I in the ride. It's about the 30-minute ride. Well, as soon as he hopped in the car, he was excited to see me. And he was not like this.
Mhm.
This was a really quiet, reserved teenage guy who never said very much on the previous rides. So the fact of him hopping in the car, excited to see me, just filled my
Oh,
heart.
oh yeah. Yeah.
And then he just spoke nonstop about what he was up to, what he was doing. I never knew that he was into the Korean art form of animation. And
Okay, yeah.
and he spoke, about that. And oh my gosh, we had the best trip
Oh,
ever.
that is special for a teenager to open up to you. You meant
Yeah.
a lot to him. So
And I think you never knew the impact that you were going to have on
that's
others. And
that's right.
so just give yourself freely, because I think it's no accident in the people that we meet. And
Mhm.
now and I've done volunteering for a few years now at this organization that look, they make coffins for people that want a more affordable option.
Mhm.
But a sideline of that is that we make these beautiful little baby coffins that we donate to parents, who have lost in utero or as
Right.
neonates or as young children. And we
Wow.
gift those coffins, and they're beautifully lined and decorated,
Oh,
and they've got little teddies and hearts. And
I bet that
uh,
means the world to them. Yeah.
what a gift to a parent
Oh yeah.
who's otherwise going through something that is
Yeah.
often unrecognized. So,
That's right. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, bravo to you. Helen, thank you so much for coming on today on Earrings Off. Those are all of the questions that I have for you today. Do you have any parting words you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, I was just wondering because, we spoke about, and you may actually mention in, because energy healing is what actually allowed me to find peace and calm and freedom from the chronic conditions that I'd had since my
Mhm.
early 20s. And so I was actually on a road trip to Ohope, which has this beautiful beach, and it was about a 4-hour trip. And so I randomly downloaded some podcasts. And one of these podcasts that I listened to was by Dr. Bradley Nelson, talking about the emotion code. And he was talking about how we trap emotions within our body, and they can be from anything, anywhere. And if we don't process them, then they just, build up on top of each other.
Right.
And, like we all tend to have a weakness in our body. So for some people, it's their lungs. For me, it was my digestive tract, and, maybe your throat or your
Mm-hmm.
legs or whatever. But that's where you tend to trap emotion. And that's what I believe from my childhood, why I developed Crohn's. Because I was a highly sensitive child, living in a family I didn't feel like I belonged in. And my whole early life, teenage life, early 20s, and that was just stressful. It was like I was a hypersensitive, perfectionist person,
Mm-hmm.
just living this life that nobody seemed to get, or I didn't understand me. I didn't feel like I
Mm-hmm.
fit in. So I felt like a bystander. So I became very ill from that. And when I found this system by Dr. Bradley Nelson about releasing emotions, I thought, oh, can't be. Sounds too good to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to it again. And I went, well, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. And so what I did when I got to the beach is I downloaded his free emotion code, information. I taught myself how to muscle test over the next couple of days. And then I started releasing this emotion. Oh my goodness. I kid you not, after a few days of doing this, I felt peace. I felt calm. I felt strong, and I had never, ever in my life ever felt that before. And this was just from releasing all these emotions that I trapped. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Or that abandonment, that rejection, that being misunderstood, that guilt, that resentment, that jealousy, all of those emotions that I trapped within me. Just by releasing them, I allowed myself to have this beautiful place of calm and acceptance. And so I went overseas actually to a conference in Utah to meet Dr. Bradley Nelson. So the reason he discovered this was that he worked as a chiropractor, and he discovered after years of doing this, he would get downloads about emotions that were causing people to have really, constant neck aches or back
Physical.
pain or
Right.
yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So these emotions were manifesting themselves physically.
That's good. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So from there, I decided to become certified in the emotion code and the body code. And the body code deals with the systems of the bodies, the chakras, the energy systems like the meridians, and the energy bodies. So so I became
Wow.
certified in both, and then I've actually, had the privilege of working with many, many people, helping
Wow.
them release energy. So
So how can
it's
our audience get in touch with you, follow up with you about that?
so I have a website which I've just changed everything to. So, if you Google the beautiful side of
Okay.
grief.com, you
Okay.
can get in contact with me via my
Okay.
website. To get
Okay.
email me, you can do the beautiful side of grief at gmail.com, and
Okay.
that will reach
Right.
me. So really, the beautiful side of grief will get you in touch with me. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Helen, so much for being with me today here on Earrings Off. I wish you all the best. Take good care.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lou. It's been a pleasure being able to share this with you and your audience.